Every time you draw or paint, you are making decisions based on how you perceive what you are seeing. But seeing isn't a simple thing, and this is why drawing and painting what you see is in fact so hard. Harold Speed, one of the most respected voices in classical art, believed that artists must train two very different modes of seeing, one based on line, the other on mass. Understanding this duality can transform not just the way you draw, but how you see the world. It actually teaches you to see the world as an artist. Learning to see like an artist isn't just about using your eyes. It's about understanding how your brain interprets what your eyes see. We don't perceive the world only through vision. Our sense of touch, developed from early childhood, is deeply connected to how we understand form, depth, and solidity. As babies, we explore the world by reaching out, grabbing and feeling objects. This physical exploration builds a subconscious connection between what things look like and what they feel like. Smooth or rough, hard or soft, the way we see the values and the shadows on the surface of an object tell us if we can grab it and what touching it might feel like. And over time, this learned connection allows us to see form even without touching it. So when we draw or paint, we're not just copying what hits the retina, we're translating a lifetime of sensory memory into marks on a surface. That's why learning to truly see, just transcribing visual information on a canvas, is so difficult. It means unlearning assumptions and training yourself to look freshly at the world purely on a visual ground, and do that more consciously without letting the old habits that your brain developed take over. You can paint what you see so long as you don't see nature the way you paint it. In other words, don't rely on habits or symbols. Learn to observe and interpret the real visual experience grounded in both sight and this understanding of form built through touch, developed at the youngest age. This is a key illustration in Speed's book that I always like to refer to. If you want realism, you need to go for something that looks like B, so mass drawing is what you're looking for. Because we actually perceive the world as a patchwork of masses of values and colors stacked next to each other. Only our brain and our conceptualization helps us see objects, but line is a more abstract way of seeing. It's a more conceptual, a more intellectual way of seeing, because the line in real life doesn't exist. The only thing that exists are the big patches of color. But line is still important though in the construction of the drawing. It helps with proportions, it helps with accuracy, because putting boundaries of things that don't have boundaries is actually like a superpower. It's just that we need to use it to ultimately transition into mass drawing. Your goal as an artist is to learn how to go from line to mass successfully. Line drawing is the most natural way we tend to start. As we said, it comes from how we experience objects through touch and structure. This kind of seeing wants to identify boundaries, edges, outlines, the limits of things. You're not seeing the object as just, a patch of lights and shadows, but as something solid in space that you could hold in your hand. This is what Speed analyzes. Seeing is not just about sight, it's also about touch. It's a complex operation related to knowledge, memory, symbolism, boundaries. The very first level of seeing is what Speed calls line drawing. It's the understanding of the deeper structure of the world, the more intellectual approach. When you're learning to draw, it's essential to build a strong foundation, a kind of a scaffolding that helps train your eye to see accurately. That scaffolding should be constructed carefully and precisely, especially in the early stages, and this is what line drawing is so good at. Here's how the process typically unfolds when you practice line drawing. You start by placing a center line, usually vertical for symmetry, and a few transverse lines to help locate some of the key landmarks, like this line here, this one, this one, this one. You know, shoulders, elbows, knees. These will help you set the right proportions and the right position for your figure from the very beginning. It's really what can be called the construction lines. It's like the scaffolding for the entire piece. Next, we block in with straight lines. We break down the subject or the figure into simplified straight line shapes. This stage isn't about copying the exact curves yet, it's about capturing the angles and the proportions clearly and confidently. Straight lines are easier to measure and more reliable for getting the structure right. Once the blocking is accurate, we begin to draw the curves and the contour more naturally, using the blocking as a guide. We then simply add shading to start suggesting the volume and the depth. And finally, we unify with tone and highlights. To soften the drawing and give it a more of a middle tone, we can rub a shading gently with the fingers or a stump. Then we use a kneaded eraser to lift out the lightest parts, and this brings out what's called the highlights and enhances the sense of form and the three-dimensionality of the piece. Some students are warned against this straight line block-in method because when misused, it can indeed lead to stiff, kind of mechanical drawings, and that's a valid concern. The mistake isn't using straight lines as part of the construction of your drawing, it's staying stuck in them. Blocking in, you have to remember that, and line drawing in general, it's just a temporary framework. Its purpose is clarity and precision, not expression, not yet. Once the structure is sound and solid, you need to let go of this scaffolding and allow your lines to move more freely with more sensitivity. So all of these kind of nasty, blocky straight lines are all going to get away. Here's the key idea. Straight lines help you understand the structure, the curves. They help you express the life of the figure. So you need both, but you need to know when to switch from one to the other. And you have to start with the more stiff structure of the straight line. Even the most skilled artists still rely on invisible straight line constructions in their minds, so don't try to go too fast and draw curves too early. On the other side, don't cling to the straightness too much either. It's as simple as using the scaffolding to build the drawing and then tearing it down when it's time to breathe life into it. Now let's talk about mass drawing according to Speed's conception, and it's a totally different beast. This is visual perception, the world as it appears on the retina, stripped of the meaning, the boundaries that our brain always wants to put on things. Think of it as a mosaic of abstract color patches and values. There is no outline, only areas of light, dark, values and shadow shapes interacting. This is how painters must see when they want to make their paintings more realistic. Instead of saying, is this an eye, is this a nose? You ask, what is the shape of this shadow? How dark is this compared to the area next to it? What does this shadow shape exactly look like? Typically, you don't want to get stuck at image A, you want to switch to B. And you want to do that with as much accuracy as possible. And it's harder to do at first because it fights against your knowledge. The brain wants to see things, eye, nose, mouth. But mass drawing forces you to switch that off and observe the truth of appearances, even when it contradicts your assumptions. This is the kind of seeing that allows you to paint with subtlety, accuracy, and realism. Here is in practice what Speed recommends to get into mass drawing, and it's actually a painting exercise. First, you pick a basic object with clear light and shadows, like a plaster cast, or anything. It can be a fruit, some pot, a vase, a simple geometric form. You use a strong directional light, ideally artificial, coming from the side or 3/4, not from the front. Artificial light gives clear separation between light and shadow, which is easier for training the eye. You try to place the object on a background that has a mid-tone value or at least a dark value. And then you start with a charcoal blocking. So you start with line drawing actually. You use charcoal. Speed recommends using charcoal to block in the major shapes, focusing only on large masses. So we use line for boundaries, but this is more for the boundaries of the shadow shapes. Something like this. So you see here, this is the connection between line drawing and mass drawing. The line is used to set the boundaries of the mass that you need for the realism in your painting. You have to think of it as your structural scaffolding. Line drawings comes to help mass drawing in the very beginning to help build the foundations. In this demonstration, I add my own little touch and I do it actually with a brush because I find that even line drawing can be done effectively with a brush, while mixing charcoal and paint, even with fixative, is a bit messy, so you'll forgive me for altering the words of the venerable Harold Speed, but I'm more confident like that. So Speed recommends using straight lines to block in the shadow shapes and overall contour. Don't forget your construction lines, anything that can help you build more accurate proportions. Think in flat shapes, big proportions, and visual landmarks. And don't try to draw the details or model the form yet, because this step is just a setup for the painting. This is actually a little bit of line drawing before we can actually move on to more serious mass drawing. Now mix a value of raw umber and white oil paint that matches the halftone of the object that sits between the light and shadow, and with a large brush, scumble this tone over the entire surface. Scumbling here means rubbing the paint in with a dry brush side to side, creating a thin, even tone. You can consider that it's kind of dry glazing if you want to say it like that. It's not the proper expression, but that's how I try to visualize it. If the paint is too stiff, Speed recommends to add a little oil and to avoid turpentine or solvent, as it would make the paint too thin and weak at this stage. Now mix a tone that matches the lightest areas of the object and paint those light shapes directly onto the mid-tone ground. Pay attention to how the light areas meet the halftones. Are the transitions soft or sharp? And progressively improve those transitional areas. Because you are painting on top of the scumbled mid-tone from the background, your lights will probably mix slightly with it, and this is good because it creates subtle variation in tones depending on how thickly or thinly you apply the paint. Thicker paint equals lighter tone, and thinner paint equals darker tone, as more of the mid-tone shows through. Also, repeatedly pressing the brush against the canvas will also let more of the background pollute your light tone, so it will also make it darker overall. This technique lets you sculpt the light naturally without needing a large range of color or tools. And finally you paint the shadows, and you do the same as you did with the lights, but this time with the darkest shadows. You mix a tone that matches the deepest of the shadow that you have, the deepest value you have for your shadows, and you paint them into place. Again, wet on wet, watching how the shadows meet the halftone grounds. Sometimes the edges are hard, sometimes they're soft. Just like with the lights, the thicker the paint, the darker the shadow. Thinner paint will mix more with the mid-tone underneath, giving you something softer, lighter. Once you have blocked in all the major tones, halftone, lights, and shadows, you can just step back and compare your painting to the subject from a distance. What is off? What feels too flat or too sharp? Correct the proportions, adjust the tones where necessary, do anything that still needs to be fixed. This final pass is about refining relationships. You don't want to add unnecessary details, you just want to connect the areas together. This exercise isn't about finishing a beautiful painting, it's about building foundational skills. How to simplify a subject into large masses of values, how to manipulate the thickness of paint for tonal variety, and more importantly, how to connect line drawing from the very foundation into something that progressively becomes more about masses. Speed's most powerful idea is this. These two ways of seeing are fundamentally different, and if you train only one, your work will suffer, so you need both. If you focus only on line drawing, you'll be strong in gesture and proportions and foundations, but your painting will kind of feel blocky, dry, and artificial because the lights, the shadow, the value relationships, they won't be convincing. It just needs mass. And if you focus only on mass drawing, your tonal work might feel very painterly, but somehow there's probably going to be a lot of incorrect proportions in your paintings and lack of accuracy. Your figures will look squishy, shapeless, or vague. A lot of teachings often blends both without even saying that they are two different things, but this kind of blend of line and mass can cause confusion in the student if line and mass haven't been properly understood separately first. In my own approach, line drawing always happens at the very beginning, and the goal is always to successfully transition to form slowly, and goes like this. First line, then mass or shapes, and finally form, which happens quite naturally. Line drawing is essential for building the main proportions and establish the foundations of the work. It's an abstracted approach, it's geometric, it relies more on intellect than perception. It's useful, it's very sharp, symbolic, not very realistic. Mass drawing is essential for painting the actual illusion of light on the canvas and make it look realistic. It's a more concrete approach, it's based on sensory impression, it relies more on perception than intellect. In practical terms, this means approaching your drawings and paintings as a progressive transformation from line to mass to value and finally to form. You start with line drawing. This is where you map out the proportions, the gesture, and the construction. This is your 2D scaffolding, the blueprint that helps everything fall into place. And you don't want to rush for this part. It sharpens your awareness of the structure, the relationships between the parts, the accuracy of the shape of the elements. Once this is done, you can then begin to transition to mass drawing. You want to forget about lines for a moment and begin thinking in shapes. Identify the big shadow masses, shape them, and think about their overlaps and their transitions. You want to work broadly this time. Squinting is your best friend. You might think, well, it's less accurate. Yes, it's all right. We did the accuracy during the line drawing phase. Now we can move on. We can ask ourselves, where does the light hit? Where does it not hit? And once your masses are established, you can start refining what I call the value shapes. You compare the tones, you adjust the contrast, you really sculpt the illusion of the volume. And this is where your painting begins to move from flat to three-dimensional. And from there, it's super easy to resolve your forms, bring clarity to the edges, refine transitions, introduce the subtle nuance, reflected light, all the things that bring life and realism to the work. So in the end, it's not about choosing between line or mass drawing. It's about knowing when to use each and how to let one grow into the other. This path from line to mass to value to form mirrors the thinking process of most trained painters. It moves from the abstract to the specific, from the mental symbolification of the structure to the visual perception of the big masses of light. So if your drawing feels off sometimes, maybe you're just stuck in one of those mindsets between line and mass. Maybe you need to pull back to line mode if you went too fast to the values. Try switching intentionally. If you feel lost, ask yourself, am I in line mode or in mass mode? Am I building with lines or observing tones in masses? What should I be doing here at the current state I'm at? Train both, use both, master both, and learn how to get from line to mass with ease. You can also check out this video next, and until next time, my friends, joy and inspiration to you. Bye.